The suburban street was quiet, its tidy lawns and glowing porch lights a facade of safety. But in the Marshall house, something unspeakable stirred, a presence that clawed through the veneer of normalcy, leaving blood and screams in its wake. My name is Roseanne, a neighbor who thought she knew the family next door. Ellie, Joel, their son Alex, and baby Jacob. One night, I found Alex collapsed in my arms, drenched in blood, clutching a note that read, "They're coming. They're all dead. Save me." What I discovered in their house wasn't just a crime scene. It was a descent into a horror that defied reason, a horror that still claws at my dreams. This is not a story of grief or loss. It's a warning of what hides in the shadows of the homes we pass every day, waiting to claim us. Have you ever walked past a neighbor's house and felt a chill, as if the windows watched you back? Would you dare step inside if you heard a child scream? Or would you turn away, praying it's not your nightmare to face? The weight of Alex in my arms was wrong, too light, as if his small frame had been hollowed out. I caught him just before he collapsed on my porch, his body trembling, his clothes soaked in blood. Warm, real blood coated his hands, his face, even his hair, matting it in crimson clumps. I hugged him tight, the world spinning, not from panic, but from the sheer volume of blood. "Alex," I said, my voice shaking, "Baby, are you okay? What happened?" He didn't answer, only whimpered, his face pale and sweaty, eyes unfocused, darting like trapped animals. I caressed his hair, finding more blood, but no wounds, except a small scratch on his cheek, too minor to explain the gore. His sneakers were stained, fresh blood pooling in the soles. "James!" I yelled, my voice breaking. "James, get in here." My husband burst through the door, phone to his ear, mid-conversation. "Roseanne, what's—" He froze, his composure shattering as he saw Alex. "Call an ambulance," I said, urgency sharpening my words. "Now, James." He nodded, fumbling with the phone, his voice trembling as he gave our address to the operator. I adjusted Alex in my arms, trying to see his face clearly. His clothes were torn, bruises blooming on his pale skin. "Alex, sweetie," I said softly, "you're safe now. Can you tell me what happened?" He didn't speak, but his shaking hand reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled, torn piece of paper. He pressed it into my hand, fingers slick with blood. I unfolded it, my heart pounding. The handwriting was childish, messy, rushed. "They're coming. They're all dead. Roseanne, please save me." I froze, breath catching. "James," I said, holding out the note. He crouched beside me, reading it, his face hardening, not with anger, but fear. "What does this mean?" he asked, voice low. "Who's they?" "Alex, what happened?" Alex whimpered at his father's voice, tensing in my arms, his breathing shallow and irregular. I brushed wet hair from his face. "Alex," I said, forcing calm, "please, honey, talk to me. You're safe with us." He met my eyes, trusting but terrified, and whispered, "They're coming." I tried to stop it, "Roseanne," but so much blood. His words hit like a fist. I held him tighter, the note's warning, the blood, his plea. They wove a tapestry of dread I couldn't unravel. "They're still out there," he murmured, voice barely audible. "They're coming for me." A chill slithered down my spine. Whatever had done this was worse than I'd imagined. Something beyond comprehension. James touched my shoulder. "Roseanne, the paramedics are coming. Don't push him. He's in shock." "I need to know," I insisted. "This isn't normal, James. Something's wrong." As sirens wailed closer, the unease grew heavier, a weight pressing on my chest. The paramedics loaded Alex into the ambulance, his small form swallowed by the stretcher. I watched it drive away, sirens fading, leaving a hollow silence. The blood on my sweater dried, sticky against my skin, as if Alex's fear still clung to me. James stood behind me, phone in hand, having called the police. "We need to let them handle this," he said, voice deliberate. "They're headed to the marshals. This is beyond us." I turned to him, his face taut with tension. Something happened there, James. Alex wasn't hurt, but look at him, he ran, he escaped. What if Ellie or Joel is hurt? Or worse? He stepped closer, hands on my shoulders. You're scared. I'm scared. But running over there alone at night won't fix anything. The police will sort it out. We'll wait for Alex. His reason grated against my urgency. I can't wait, I said, voice cracking. Don't you feel it? Something's wrong. I pulled away, crossing the street toward the Marshall house, the air growing colder with each step. The streetlights cast long shadows, their yellow glow dimming as I approached. The neighborhood, so familiar by day, felt alien now, the silence oppressive. I glanced back at James, his silhouette framed by our porch light, phone still in hand. He didn't follow, his hesitation a silent plea to stay safe. But Alex's note burned in my mind, its words a tether pulling me forward. The Marshall house waited, its darkened windows like eyes, watching, knowing. The Marshall house, once warm and inviting, loomed like a tomb. I'd visited a few times. Ellie's laughter, Joel's quiet humor, Alex's shy smiles, but now it was wrong. The porch light flickered, dimmer than memory. Flower pots on the steps overturned. One cracked. A putrid odor hit me at the door. Rotting meat, blood, and something sour, acrid. I gagged, pulling my sleeve over my nose. The door was ajar, a sliver of darkness within. Ellie, I called softly, voice swallowed by silence. Even the crickets had stilled, as if the house smothered all life. I stepped inside, the stench overwhelming, forcing me to blink against the dimness. Chaos greeted me. An armchair overturned, its fabric clawed, broken glass crunching underfoot. A coffee table flipped, family photos scattered. I picked one up, Ellie, Joel, Alex, and baby Jacob smiling. The glass was cracked, Jacob's face smudged, as if erased. I set it down, heart racing. Ellie? Joel? My voice rasped in the acidic air. The kitchen was worse. Chairs toppled, utensils strewn, the refrigerator door ajar. A dark stain smeared the floor, trailing toward the hallway, as if something had been dragged. My stomach churned, dread clawing at me. I didn't want to follow the trail, but Alex's voice echoed. They're still out there. I stepped forward, foot slipping on wet blood. A faint, wet whisper sounded, barely audible, prickling my skin. Ellie, I croaked. Silence. I followed the smears to the back bedroom, each step heavier, the air thick. The hallway seemed to stretch, walls closing in, the smell growing stronger. Blood, rot, and that sour note, like decay left too long in the dark. I passed a mirror, avoiding my reflection, afraid of what I'd see. At the bedroom door, I paused, hand trembling on the knob. A giggle sounded from the other side, sharp, high-pitched, mocking. My breath caught, skin crawling. It wasn't joyful but cruel, as if taunting me. I wanted to believe it was my imagination, but the knot in my stomach tightened. I glanced back at the front door, James's warnings ringing in my ears. He'd begged me not to go, but I'd ignored him. Now, regret gnawed at me, but Alex's plea, save me, pushed me forward. I couldn't turn back, not yet. I pushed the door, entering the living room. The smell hit first, rot, blood, death. Then I saw them, Ellie and Joel, sprawled on the floor. Ellie lay on her side, head twisted unnaturally, auburn hair soaked in blood, arms clawed to ribbons. Joel was worse, half his head smashed, eyes wide, beard crimson. Blood pooled, reflecting the broken ceiling light, more than seemed possible. I gagged, tears streaming, the wrongness overwhelming. The air felt alive, pulsing with something malevolent, as if the house itself had witnessed and approved. Ellie, I whispered, knowing she'd never answer. Joel, I'm sorry. I backed against the wall, the stench choking me. The room was a slaughterhouse, every surface tainted. I noticed claw marks on the walls, for deep, foot-long gashes, too precise for an animal, too savage for a human. My eyes followed them, tracing the path of whatever had done this. Then it struck me, Jacob was missing. His crib should have been in the corner, but the space was empty. Alex's note flashed in my mind. Save me. Jacob was still alive somewhere. I dried my eyes, heart pounding. The blood trail led deeper into the hallway, toward the nursery. Jacob? I said, voice hoarse, forcing myself to follow. The house seemed to resist, the air thickening, pushing back. Another laugh sounded, childlike but wrong, from the nursery door. My legs shook, but I leaned against the wall, peering inside. The room was dim, lit only by streetlight filtering through a cracked window. The crib stood in the center, rocking gently, empty. Roseanne? A high-pitched voice whispered, sharp as a blade. I spun, catching a white, small shape in the corner, but it vanished, leaving only the laugh. The crib kept rocking, its motion unnatural, as if pushed by an unseen hand. I backed out, shallow breaths burning in the smoky air. The laugh came again, above me. I looked up, heart stopping. A staircase I hadn't noticed led to an attic, impossible in a house this size. Its narrow steps disappeared into darkness, the smell of rot pouring down like a tide. Jacob, or what was left of him, was up there. I knew it, felt it in my bones. The staircase shouldn't have been there. The Marshall house was a single-story ranch, no attic, no second floor. Yet the steps loomed, steep and narrow, wood warped and splintered. The smell was unbearable now. Blood, rot, and something ancient, like earth undisturbed for centuries. I gripped the railing, loose and wobbly, as if mocking my attempt to climb. Jacob? I whispered, voice quivering, hating how it trembled. The air was heavy, pressing on my chest, each breath a struggle. I climbed, the wood creaking underfoot, each sound amplified, like something stirring to meet me. My head brushed a low beam at the top, darkness swallowing the faint light from a dirty attic window. A hallway stretched before me, lined with doors, their frames warped, as if the house had grown this space in secret. The rustling sound came again, louder, from somewhere ahead. Jacob? I called, softer now, fear choking my voice. No answer, just the creak of floorboards and a faint, mocking giggle. I reached the first door, cracked open, and pushed it. Torn curtains hung, claw marks scarring the walls, mirroring downstairs. A family portrait lay broken on the floor. Ellie, Joel, Alex, Jacob. Ellie's painted smile slashed through. The rustling grew, a skittering in the shadows. I backed out, trembling, and moved to the last door, the nursery. The room was deceptively normal. Pastel walls, toys scattered, a rocking horse in the corner. The crib stood central, and in its shadows Jacob crawled. Relief surged, but as I touched him, his skin was cold, gray, withered like a corpse. His eyes were sunken, black voids, not the baby blue I remembered. He screamed, a metallic, piercing sound that tore through me. Not human, not alive. I dropped him, stumbling back as he writhed, screaming, limbs twitching unnaturally. The sound burrowed into my skull, a violation I couldn't escape. I fled, bursting through the front door, slamming it shut, gasping for air. I collapsed on the lawn, retching, the scream echoing in my mind. Roseanne! James ran to me, stopping short, face pale. What happened? I couldn't speak, the horror too vast. It's not Jacob, I choked, tears streaming. It's not him. Sirens wailed, red and blue lights flashing. Officers approached, flashlights sweeping. Ma'am, are you okay? One asked. She's Roseanne, James said, helping me up. She's in shock. I babbled. Jacob's in the attic, but not Jacob. He screamed. The officer frowned, skeptical. Is Jacob a child? Yes, but not him, I stammered. Not anyone's Jacob. Calm down, he said, but I snapped. I am calm. He's in the attic. Officer Clark organized a sweep. Minutes later, radios crackled. 2 dead adults, double homicide. Nurseries clear. Then, no attic here, just storage. I froze, heart pounding. No attic. James touched my arm, voice soft. Roseanne, you're tired. I know what I saw. I insisted, but doubt crept in, cold and sharp. The officers found blood, bodies, claw marks, but no attic, no Jacob. As James led me away, I glanced at the nursery window. A shadow flickered, small and gray, watching. I gritted my teeth, letting James pull me home. But the truth gnawed. Jacob wasn't in the house anymore. The thing that wore his skin was something else, something that knew my name. 3 weeks passed, but time didn't heal. The Marshall house haunted me. Ellie's clawed arms, Joel's shattered skull, Jacob's scream. James suggested moving, packing our lives into a new house with hardwood floors and white walls. It looked happy, a fresh start, but felt wrong. The shadows were too dark, the rooms too vast, as if the house stretched beyond its walls. James worked late, avoiding me, pretending that night never happened. Couldn't. I scoured forums. Missing persons, hauntings, cryptids, seeking answers, but nothing fit. James hated my obsession. It's over, he'd say, voice tight. We're alive. Move on. His words isolated me, a cold wall between us. I stopped looking in mirrors, fearing the hollow woman staring back. Sleep brought nightmares. Jacob's black eyes, his scream, the attic that wasn't there. The police sealed the Marshall house, then abandoned it, deeming it an animal attack. I knew better. The claw marks weren't from any bear, the laugh not from any child. Something had taken root in that house, something ancient, hungry. I returned one night, seeking closure, pushing open the unlocked back door. The furniture was gone, but bloodstains lingered in my mind's eye, vivid as the day I'd seen them. The stench of decay hit, impossible in an empty house, sour and rotting. I moved through the hallway, flashlight casting shadows, the smell intensifying. At the nursery door, something crouched, pale, sallow, its eyes voids. Roseanne? It whispered, louder than a scream. I felt watched, a presence trailing me for weeks, heavy as a second skin. I fled, vowing never to return, but the feeling followed. At home, doing dishes, I sensed it. Eyes on my back, the air thick with menace. James worked in his study, avoiding the truth, leaving me alone with my fear. The TV's sound was distorted, the house's shadows too sharp. I scrubbed a plate, mind replaying Alex's bloody hands. Ellie's body, Jacob's scream. I wanted to believe we were safe, but the presence was here, in our new home, waiting. The new house was no sanctuary. Its white walls mocked our attempt to escape, their brightness a lie. The garden withered despite my care, the soil sour, like the air in the Marshall house. James threw himself into work, leaving at dawn, returning after dark. He barely spoke, his eyes avoiding mine, as if seeing me would force him to acknowledge the truth. I felt his blame, unspoken but sharp. I dragged us into this, crossed the street, opened the door. Now we were both trapped. I spent days on forums, chasing fragments of explanation. Stories of changelings, wraiths, things that wore human skin but weren't. None matched what I'd seen, but all echoed its wrongness. James grew angry when I tried to talk. Stop living in it, he'd snap, voice raw. We're here, not there. But I couldn't stop. The scream was part of me, a parasite in my mind. I avoided mirrors, fearing not just my reflection, but what might stand behind me, grinning with black eyes. Sleep was a battleground. When I closed my eyes, I was back in the attic, the crib rocking, Jacob's scream cutting through me. I'd wake gasping, the smell of rot lingering, as if the house carried it. James slept beside me, oblivious or pretending to be. I wondered if he dreamed of it too, if he saw the claw marks, heard the laugh. But he never said, and I never asked. We were strangers now, bound by a shared horror we couldn't name. One night, washing dishes, the presence grew unbearable. The air was heavy, the TV's hum warped, like a voice underwater. I felt it, eyes boring into my back, closer than ever. My hands shook, The plate slipping, water splashing. "James?" I called, voice timid. No answer. He was in his study, working, hiding. I dried my hands, heart racing. The smell of decay creeping in, sour and thick. A crash sounded from the hallway. A thud, then silence. I froze, breath shallow. "James?" I stepped toward the hallway, our bungalow offering no upstairs to flee to. The smell grew, putrid, overwhelming. I pushed the study door open. James lay under a fallen bookshelf, neck twisted, eyes empty, laptop screen still glowing. Scratch marks scarred the desk, floor, walls, long, sharp, inhuman. A scraping sounded behind me, fingernails on plaster, slow, deliberate. The stench choked me, the air alive with malice. A warbling laugh echoed, small and cruel. I turned, knees weak. A shape crouched in the hallway, gray, shriveled, limbs twitching, head tilted at an impossible angle. Its eyes were voids, its grin wide, claws digging into the wall. "Jacob?" I whispered, tears streaming. "Why?" It laughed, pouncing. I screamed, the world fading to black. I woke in a hospital, monitors beeping, my body heavy with painkillers. James was gone, the police said. Found dead in our home, cause unknown. They asked about the scratch marks, the blood, but I couldn't speak. The words were trapped, buried under the screams still ringing in my ears. They didn't mention Jacob or the thing that wasn't Jacob. The Marshall house was boarded up, its secrets sealed, but I knew it wasn't over. I moved again, alone, to a small apartment far from that street. The walls are bare, the windows locked, but the presence follows. At night, I hear scratches, faint laughs, the smell of rot seeping through the cracks. I don't sleep, don't look in mirrors, don't trust the shadows. The forums are my only refuge, but no one believes me. They call it trauma, delusion, but I know the truth. It's out there wearing Jacob's skin, waiting. If you found a child covered in blood, would you follow their trail into the unknown? Or call for help and stay safe? What would it take to convince you something inhuman had taken root in your neighbor's home?